So, Transformers Rise of the Beast is coming out, and as a huge Transformers fan, I am hyped as hell. The designs, the action, all look stunning. With the human characters looking like they're going to be doing a lot more than just running places, and the fact it only has a runtime of 1 hour and 57 minutes, it will hopefully mean we'll get more focus on Transformers and less focus on humans. And you know, with all this hype for Transformers, I thought the best way to tide me over until the movie comes out was by rewatching this franchise's first attempt at live action and talking about it. Spoiler alert, they nailed it and I loved it. To remind everybody what I'm about, I don't really do traditional reviews. I talk about things I like and love on a wide sliding scale, so that means that I won't just focus on the movie itself. I'll talk about other aspects in the franchise that affect my perception of it. So with that reminder, let's talk about how much I love... That title card is dope as fuck. So the movie starts out in the desert with some soldier boys doing some soldier boy things and acting a little racist, as all soldier boys do, until a helicopter strolls on the base and turns into a giant fucking robot, then steals some info and, leaves. The movie cuts to Sam Witwicky giving a presentation in his class about his grandfather, who was a great explorer. It's clear that he is unpopular and awkward, which big fucking whoop, join the club. He gets a B-, which is weird because he brought actual newspaper reports and his grandfather's real glasses to the presentation, which is a family heirloom, and that's 100% more effort than most kids will put in anything, so honestly, he should have gotten a higher grade. Anyway, he tries to convince his teacher to give him an A- so that his dad can buy him a car. After sweatily groveling to his teacher, his dad goes to buy him a car, but there is a yellow and black 1977 Camaro that Sam takes a liking to, and it also is the only car left in the lot because that same Camaro destroyed every other car. Rip to Bernie Mac. After getting the car, it does strange things like turn on the radio, seemingly drives itself, tries to be a wingman for Sam while he's trying to impress this girl in his class called Michaela, and transforming into a giant robot like the helicopter from earlier. That's not right. Some politics happen at the Pentagon because being a government worker is really cool, and while that is happening, Frenzy is going through their databanks and locates Sam Witwicky. We go to the desert and focus on our soldier boys being soldier boys again, until Scorponok attacks and they blow him the fuck up with a coordinated airstrike. We refocus on Sam and his car drives off again and he gives chase and runs into Michaela.
Bye, Burger King!
And then a cop car ambushes Sam and proceeds to turn into a giant robot that demands to know where the glasses are. Bumblebee gets Michaela and Sam out of there and then beats the fresh piss out of Barricade, which I wish we could have seen, but we got to watch Michaela protect Sam from Frenzy instead. Frenzy also transformed into Michaela's phone and now hides in her purse. After that, Bumblebee gets a new form,
Bye, Camaro,
and meets up with the Autobots where we meet Jazz, Ironhide, Ratchet, Bumblebee, and Optimus motherfucking Prime, and we learn that the Transformers were escaping a vicious war on their home planet Cybertron, started by a hungry warmonger called Megatron, and his army, the Decepticons. They came to Earth specifically to find the Allspark, a legendary artifact that can create Transformers, the location of which were inscribed on Sam's glasses. So now we go back to the house for the glasses, an unfunny comedy session happens, and just when they find them, the fucking feds from Sector 7 show up. We'll learn about them in a little bit. But they detain Sam and Michaela, and the Autobots rescue them, and in doing so, Bumblebee gets captured, leading Optimus to make the hard decision to leave them be. Sam and Michaela are taken to the Hoover Dam, where the base of Sector 7 is located, and there we see the Allspark and NBE-1. And by NBE-1, I mean fucking Megatron. Put some respect on his name. Decepticons! Transform and rise up! Here we learn Sector 7 is a secret organization that keeps the world safe from extraterrestrial threats, and they're really bad at it because there's 5 active Decepticons, 7 if you count Frenzy and Scorponok, one of which snuck into the Pentagon, so yeah. Meanwhile, Frenzy sneaks into the dam from Michaela's purse, regains his body, and then unfreezes Megatron because Frenzy is probably the best Transformer scout in this movie. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Man just gets shit done. While Frenzy is off getting dubs for the Decepticons, the humans free Bumblebee and he shrinks the Allspark because why the hell not, I guess, and then they leave for Mission City, which the Transformers wiki describes as the worst place to live because Mountain Dew machines kill people and Xboxes attack their owners. God, I love this wiki so much. While on the way, Megatron breaks out of containment and makes his way towards the Cube, and the Autobots meet up with B on the way to Mission City. They're intercepted by Decepticons on the highway, and Optimus decides to be like my teammates in CSGO and stay back to get a kill instead of rotating with the rest of the squad, which makes him quite late to the battle. Okay, this section is getting too long, so let's close this out by saying that they make it to the city, all-out war breaks loose, Jazz dies, all the Decepticons die, Sam does some fuck shit with the cube and makes it explode Megatron's chest, and then Sam and Michaela make out on Bumblebee while Optimus gives a good speech as usual. And Starscream flies into space. Yeah, a lot of Transformers media usually involves them fighting over an artifact or just trying to find it, and the story has never been super complex, especially this one since it was their first live-action movie and it was a summer blockbuster. I wasn't really expecting something like the Cybertron games, but Transformers has always drawn me in on the characters and the action more than anything else, and this movie does not disappoint. So let's talk about the characters for this movie, the Autobots, Decepticons, and the humans. The Autobot team consists of classic characters such as Ironhide, Jazz, Ratchet, Bumblebee, and Optimus Prime, and that's a pretty alright team and characters I certainly enjoyed having around, and the only thing I could really complain about is that we could have gotten live-action RC in place of Ironhide, but they didn't include her because they didn't want to explain women alien robots to the audiences, and then they later said it was because of height issues or something. I don't know. It sucks. I like RC way more than Ironhide, but we got her in Bumblebee, and we're getting her in Rise of the Beast as a part of the main cast, so it only took 16 years for her to get a line in a live-action movie, but I'm happy, I suppose. The Autobots have decent characterization. They don't show up in the movie as much as I would like them to, because CGI is expensive, fun fact, but I do enjoy it when they're there. It's also a movie, so I'm not going to give it too much flack for not fleshing out the Autobots as much as media released around the time did, such as the IDW comics and the animated series, and I'll talk about both one day. The Autobots get just enough screen time to show how cool and funny they are, even if Jazz is... cracking little bitches. Yeah. Michael Bay and his timeless, very highbrow humor. Ironhide is cool. He's a classic tough guy who loves guns and is always antsy to use them. You always need those types of dudes around. And Ratchet is also there. He says a good 3 or 4 sentences, I think. He's the medic. Jazz gets to be a racist character and then fucking dies. Bumblebee is the second most important Transformer, and to be honest, I do not like this iteration of Bumblebee. Him using the radio to talk is not funny or appealing to me, and him losing his voice made us lose out on so many potentially good moments from a live-action Bumblebee. The little brother of the Autobots, and the guardian of Sam. Also, he gets his legs taken off in the last battle, so he's not there for a majority of it, but his fight with Brawl was dope as fuck, which I will expand upon later in the action CGI section. It's just such a shame because the Bumblebee in animated is actually really fun to watch and one of my favorite iterations, and one iteration I like more than that one is the Bumblebee from Prime, who is voiceless and communicates in a series of beeps and boops, and I love watching his interactions with his guardian, Raphael. Raphael can understand his beeps and boops, I don't know how, but it would have been pretty cool if Sam could maybe have done the same. They could have explained it by just saying that he's special. He's a special Transformer boy. They do it in the later movies, so I think they could have done it here. Now there's only one Autobot left to talk about. Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime in this movie is written really well. He's a towering figure who leads the fight against tyranny and just commands your respect every time he speaks. He always has to rein the Autobots in from being a little too rowdy and or destructive. He is very much the dad of the group, which is pretty in line with his original incarnation, so that's pretty great. When Bumblebee gets kidnapped by Sector 7, the Autobots want to go break him out, but Optimus stops them because of the harm they'd caused to humans. He makes the hard choice to leave Bumblebee captured because they have to take the high road as being capable of much worse, and he knows Bumblebee can take whatever they give him. It also leads to this beautiful interaction between the Autobots where Optimus tells them that when they get the Allspark and all hope seems lost, they need to put it in his chest so he can sacrifice himself to destroy it. It's very much classic Optimus, who tries his best to do what's right, even in the most dire situations. One of the scenes I actually didn't like in the movie because of the painfully unfunny human moments is brightened by the Autobots being goofy. When they take Sam back to his house, but they don't know where to hide because they showed up on Earth literally that night, shenanigans ensue. The Autobots turn into cars in the yard, they lean against the house trying to hide from Sam's dad, Ratchet gets a high from stepping into a power line, and Optimus admonishes Ironhide for his trigger finger. It is all just perfect, and I wish they acted like this in every movie after this. I love when the Autobots are goofy. They weren't militaristic and hardline like the Decepticons are. Why wouldn't they be silly guys? I also like this segment because it shows that the Autobots are gonna have trouble on Earth. They're titans in a violent world too small for them, doesn't understand them, and doesn't even want them. All of them fighting together in Mission City was definitely one of the highs of the film for me. Them ganging up on Brawl had such sick choreography, you can tell that they've been fighting together for a while. And Ratchet and Ironhide getting Sam to the next location was just so cool. They were really giving it all they got. Now you can't have Autobots without Decepticons, or at least Decepticon adjacent enemies to fight. And this movie has a pretty okay Decepticon lineup that consists of Bone Crusher, Barricade, Blackout, Brawl, who for some reason is named Devastator, Frenzy, Starscream, and Megatron. Why does more than half of this team's name start with a B? Oh yeah, and Scorponok's there too, I guess. They're mostly there to look cool and do cool things. Barricade, Starscream, and Megatron are the only ones that don't say gibberish that's just the Cybertronian language, I think. Nobody else really says anything, which is disappointing because Decepticons have always had really awesome interactions, especially when they're portrayed as sleazy, passive-aggressive, selfish, or sometimes downright insane, which would have been perfect for this movie set in a much more darker world. The only one that fits any of those descriptions is Frenzy, and he's pretty cool and a little funny. He's certainly the most silly Decepticon in the movie, and he does do the robots in disguise thing the best. He has a lot of good moments, like sneaking around and collecting information. He does his job extremely well, and is instrumental in getting Megatron back into the main stage. Blackout is the first Transformer we see in live action, and he looks really cool. He did steal all that data. Yup. Barricade is mean and intimidating. He's there to punish and enslave, and he gets beat up by Bumblebee and doesn't show up again until the 5th movie. But hey, he also looked pretty cool. Bone Crusher fucking dies. Starscream says as many words as there are Michael Bay Transformer movies and does a really great job of being an action figure like the rest of the cons. I guess he baits for a sequel, so you know, it's pretty useful. I'm surprised Brawl was able to stand the way he was, considering he's carrying the entire team on his back. He was out there in the middle of the battle, taking on Jazz, Ratchet, Ironhide, and the US military. Man is a Combaticon through and through, and I loved whenever he was on screen. And now to talk about the big bad, Megatron. And I gotta say, his characterization is a bit weak. The most we know about him is that he's the reason Cybertron is a war-torn wasteland, he wants the Allspark, and he's evil, and wants to use it for evil purposes. Now, don't get me wrong, he's awesome in the movie, and I think Hugo Weaving plays him masterfully, you know, when he's speaking plain English. But as said earlier, this is probably the most empty version of Megatron released at the time, with his counterparts being IDW and animated being much more interesting interpretations of the old Buckethead. So is he a compelling villain? No, but goddamn do they still make him badass. When he breaks out of the ice in Sector 7 and declares, and tears the whole place apart before transforming into his Cybertronian alt, which he refuses to change into a human one, because why would the almighty Megatron need to debase himself? The universe belongs to him, and all should know exactly who they'll be subservient to, and every scene showcases this perfectly. He lands in the city, stands over everyone around him, and isn't fazed by a puny gunshot from Jazz, and then proceeds to effortlessly kill him. The entire final part of this movie is an endless string of Megatron W's. He really is made out to be an unstoppable threat. Optimus can't stop him, the Autobots have been weakened, and the rooftop scene is glorious. He's so condescending and confident in his victory, it's just so great. Even when every human ally bombards him with artillery, he's still fighting to his last breath, and still goes after the cube until Sam uses the Allspark to put him down for good. Somehow. For what little we get of Megatron in this movie, every part we do get of him is great, and I always revisit videos showing all 7 minutes of him. It is such a shame he spends every showing after this getting bitched, but for this movie, I think we got a pretty alright Megatron. So we covered the Autobots, Decepticons, so now all we have left to cover is the human characters. So you have Sam Witwicky, Michaela Baines, Lennox, and Epps, and others I really couldn't care about. Maybe Simmons, but he's not good until every film after this one. So, the biggest complaint everybody's heard by now, I watch Transformers for the Transformers, not the humans, and yeah, I've said the same thing. I just couldn't give a fuck about Sam and Michaela's relationship. Their story is just so damn boring to me, and the humor they throw in for them is just not funny. Honestly, Sam's probably the most boring of the bunch. Michaela has a badass moment with Bumblebee I'll cover in the action section, and honestly, she makes a way better protagonist than Sam, considering she's like a mechanic. Her story with Transformers writes itself, like, come on. I actually skipped over a lot of the human segments in this story summary because they're just not that worthwhile. There's a group of them that are responsible for calling in the Air Force at the end, and it's like 2 hackers, a government official, and Simmons, the Sector 7 guy. They're more funny than they are cool, except I wasn't laughing. Now, Lennox and Epps is a different story. I actually like them a lot. They're capable, competent, and I just like watching their friendship. Like with the desert fight with Scorponok. Yeah, Soldier Boys being Soldier Boys, love to see it. They also just say funnier things and do much cooler things, like when they held up Sector 7, shot at Brawl, killed Blackout, damaged Scorponok, among other things. I'll give movies flack for when they advertise the military, but I'll acknowledge that they'll make it cool as hell when they do. Hell, I catch myself saying bring the rain every chance I get, cause every time they say it, it's when shit gets real. It's like my own personal war cry. And you know what? Speaking of war, the action in this movie fucking rocks. Almost every time a Transformer is on screen, something cool is happening. The humans may take up a large part of this film, but in a way that makes the scenes where the Autobots and Decepticons are blowing stuff up all the sweeter. Even if I do want a movie where that's the only thing happening. In the beginning, when Blackout lands and transforms, that was just beautiful. The intricate moving parts, the sound design, it was all fantastic. There are so many shots in this movie that capture the towering nature and majesty of these metal alien titans, or raw fear if they're the Decepticons, because holy shit are they intimidating in this movie. They all look like deadly warriors capable of world domination. Going back to the Autobots, I think the introduction scene where they all transform and stand over Sam and Michaela will forever be in the hearts and minds of Transformer fans everywhere, for just how jaw-dropping it is and how masterfully they're visually portrayed. And it's brought all together by the godly score composed by Steve Jablinski. Seriously, go check out his music on all the Transformer movies. Man knows how to make god-tier epic music. One thing I really liked is showing how damn durable Transformers are. Early in this movie, we see Scorponok take on Lennox's squad, and they throw everything they got at this thing while it's killing them and blowing up the village they're trying to hunker down in. And after all is said and done, Scorponok got away! It really makes you wonder how much the big guys can take. Speaking of the Scorponok fighting scene, I've really been wanting to talk about this because it's only something I noticed on my rewatch. When Epps tells them to bring the rain, there is 30 uncut seconds of military chatter and footage that is so generic you could put it in any war movie and won't be out of place. I don't think they even specify that they're shooting at a giant scorpion robot. Anyway, yeah, that's been on my chest for a minute because there are a lot of moments in the movie like, yeah, joining the military would be pretty cool to do, wouldn't it? You may not get to blow up sentient robots, but you can still pilot unmanned death planes, so that's cool. Moving on, another example of wonderful action that perfectly displays the ferocity of Decepticons is the entirety of the brawl fight. Man has taken on 3 Autobots plus the army and is not going down and dishes out twice as much damage as he takes. He is a Combaticon through and fucking through. His fight with Bumblebee and Michaela is probably my favorite fight in the whole movie, and this is what I meant earlier by Michaela being a more entertaining human protagonist than Sam. She's driving a tow truck backwards at a Combaticon while it shoots at her, and with Bumblebee shooting back and Smashing Pumpkin's Doomsday Clock in the background with the military there causing extra explosions, it's just such a cool fucking fight. I wish I could show the whole thing. And I, of course, can't not talk about the fight between Optimus and Megatron. And to be honest, Megatron beats his ass. No contest. But it's still cool to see these longtime rivals in and out of universe fight in live action. The way they go through buildings, the destruction they cause, and how they interact with each other. Yeah, we know in almost every iteration, save a few, they have a deeply personal history, but new movie, new universe, and it's actually no different here. There is clearly a personal history with them. Them fighting to the death while they talk is on brand, especially when we get the iconic line,
"At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall."
So yeah, while their fight isn't as even as I would have liked it to be, like in the 1980s movie, it's still pretty good. Well, this video is getting kind of long, and I said all I want to about this movie, and like I also said in the beginning and in the title of this video, I freaking love this movie, man, especially as a Transformers fan. I very much think it's worth a watch if for some reason you've just never seen it before. I've been watching it at least once a year, every year since it came out. Is it a perfect movie? Hell no, far from it. The only reason I didn't do a bad racist joke counter was because this video is long enough as is. So yeah, definitely go watch the movie if you got a few hours to spare. Big Robot Man punches other Big Robot Man. It's a good time, I promise. And with all of that said, I once again thank you all for checking out the channel and the video. At the time of doing this, our videos have been doing way better than we expected them to, and we have y'all to thank for that. These videos have been very fun to do, and because I still don't know how to close out these things properly, like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the funny Optimus Pride video.
Optimum Pride! Puking inang yan, Optimum Pride.